EACC, Philip Kinisu, has resigned. He did that today in the afternoon, and in his resignation, he said, and I quote, "As a result of the protracted negative deliberations of the matters in the public domain, my continuing to serve as the chairman of EACC has become impractical." He's not the first head of EACC to step aside. Let me bring in Jeff Koinange. Jeff will be having a conversation with PLO Lumumba, one of the men who's been at the head of EACC. Jeff, I'm handing it over to you.
That's right, Linda. And Dr. PLO Lumumba is going to give us a little tease of what JKL is going to be about in about an hour's time. Dr. PLO, welcome. Thank you so much for coming here. And look, earlier in the news, we played a story about what they call the Jinxed Six. Six former chairmen from KACC, which is what was known in your time, to the EACC, who have all been hounded out of office. And the question I put to Linda earlier on before you came was, to use your language, is the job of EACC chairman a poisoned chalice, in your opinion?
Indeed, it is a poisoned chalice. I think one of the things that has happened in the history of what has metamorphosed into the EACC, it started as the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, Kenya Anti-Corruption, then Police Corruption Unit, then EACC, is that those who choose to go to that office go into the office in the belief that Kenyans want corruption to be fought. But the reality is that Kenyans as a people have not demonstrated that they hate corruption. And we have seen it times without number. When people are accused of corruption, they are accompanied with song and dance to the Integrity House. And as William Shakespeare used to say, when you dine with the devil, you go with the long spoon. We have been going there with short spoons, and that is why we are hounded out of office sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. I can't wait for JKL with that kind of talk there, PLO.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Another question someone was asking earlier on is, was he pushed or did he jump?
There is a sense in which both things happened. He was pushed and he jumped. Why and how was he pushed? There is the allegation that there was a conflict of interest. And one of the things that we must remember is that before people join any of these bodies, they have a life. They have been engaged in business. What the investigating authorities should have done at the time of the interview was to reveal that there was a conflict of interest. And I want to believe that my good friend Philip was himself in a position where he did reveal that he had a conflict of interest. And if that were to arise, what would happen once he had become the chairman of EACC is that he would not be allowed to touch that file. In other words, the investigations would continue and he would declare an interest, say, I have an interest in this, but I'll not be involved in the investigation. One of the commissioners would be. I want to believe that that happened, and if it did not happen, that is what ought to have happened.
So now that he has resigned, does that mean the investigations go away?
No, not at all. The investigations of the allegations relating to NYS, those are totally unrelated to what has happened to him. What Parliament did was to make a recommendation. In fact, not Parliament. It is the Committee of Parliament has made a recommendation to the President to form a tribunal, but that should also go through Parliament first. So what he has done is to resign before that happened. And I think that is a very wise decision.
Means no tribunal?
No tribunal.
He goes home?
He goes home.
He keeps the money?
No, when you resign in such circumstances, then you are not entitled to any payment apart from the payment that you had already earned by dint of service.
Yeah.
Yes.
PLA, it's going to be interesting to see how things develop in the next few days. And to pick a successor as well, that's going to take a little while.
You know, having served as the director of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, I can empathize with my friend Kinisu. My good friend Aaron Gitonga Ringera can also empathize. Mumo Matemu can also empathize. Aaron Mwau can also empathize. In Kenya, there is no shortage of critics. But the men and women who are sufficiently brave, who go out and who put their neck on the chopping board must now be very careful when they make a decision to occupy that office. They must remember that immediately they make their intention known, the daggers will be drawn. They must remember that there will be people whose only claim to fame will be to find reasons to smoke them out of office. They must remember that the population in this country are in many ways not interested in the fight against corruption. They must remember that the majority of those in the political class are not interested in the fight against corruption, and they must remember that it will be a very lonely time.
Indeed, indeed.
Very lonely.
PLO,
very lonely.
Very lonely. We'll pick this conversation up, PLO, in about an hour's time on JKL. But this reminds me of a line, Linda, back to you, before I get back to you, it reminds me of a line from the movie Black Hawk Down. When they hit those helicopters and they come down the streets of Mogadishu, the general turns to his colleague and he says, "We've lost the initiative." Right there and then. Linda, tune in to JKL in about 45 minutes. Keep tweeting at It's PLO, at It's PLO Lumumba, at Koinange Jeff. And of course, Barack Maluka will be joining us in a little bit. His Twitter handle is at Barack M. The hashtag we're using tonight, Politics 101. Linda, back to you.
Jeff, thank you. That's